morning. It's good. I think I'm going to have that crew there follow me wherever I go. Friends, it is an honor for me to stand here with you this morning. Now, before I get any further into my remarks, I want to just acknowledge the incredible missing and murdered Indigenous women presentation that we just witnessed. What an incredibly powerful message, and quite frankly, one that couldn't be more important. Please know that in Alberta, we are with you. Today and every day, we will stand together to make Alberta and all of Canada a place where Indigenous women and girls can live full and promising lives without fear. So I must say I had intended to begin my remarks this morning by congratulating the clear Premier-elect of BC. However, I think that I may have to begin by instead congratulating the people of BC for making this morning very interesting. And for also providing decades worth of cautionary tales to E-Day organizers around the country about the importance of each and every vote and about how important it is to get that vote out the morning after. So I would like to offer my congratulations to Christy Clark, to John Horgan, and to Andrew Weaver for their campaigns, and to say on behalf of Albertans that I look forward to working with them as they embark on what they have all described as a new way of governing BC. Some of you, myself included, may be a little groggy this morning from watching the returns last night. It was a late night. But let me just say that my government looks forward to working with BC on our shared priorities, helping to build a Canada that works for working people with good jobs, economic opportunity, and trade between our provinces. I'd like to thank CLC President Hassan Youssef for inviting me. You know, we are all better off because Labour leaders like Hassan have the backs of working women and men across the country. When I look at you all, that's what I see. Working women and men who care about one another and care about the well-being of millions of other Canadians just like them. I see grit. I see people who are fearless, who are focused, and who work day in and day out to make life better for regular families. I see determination. I see regular folks who have witnessed their friends and their co-workers being taken advantage of in the workplace and who said enough. I see nurses who save lives in the ER and save good jobs and good wages at the bargaining table. I see steelworkers who help get our resources to market, help our economy grow, and help fight for better wages for their neighbours and fellow Canadians. I see firefighters. I see firefighters just like the brave folks who helped save Fort McMurray just over 1 year ago. My friends, I see a room full of people who know full well that nothing gets taught, drilled, healed, planted, welded, or assembled without hard-working women and men like all of you and the hard-working women and men that you represent. So let me begin by saying thank you. Thank you for all that you do to help make life better for people. It's that desire to make life better for everyday working people and their families that not only drives us, but that unites us. So a little over 2 years ago, and by that I mean 2 years, 4 days, and roughly 15 hours ago, Albertans elected their first ever NDP government. In that election, Albertans wanted a government that was on their side, a government that would protect their priorities. They said they were tired of a government who only knew how to look out for their friends and wealthy insiders. They were tired of a government who gave taxpayer-funded golf memberships to their friends at the same time that they told working families, sorry, we're going to have to hike your school fees yet again. If those priorities sound ridiculous, it's because they are. And we're here now to help make life better for people, not to help campaign donors and government insiders improve their backswings. So 2 years ago, the economy, as we went into the election, the economy in Alberta was taking a turn for the worse. Commodity prices were tanking, the former government had done nothing to prepare, and Albertans knew the only plan the Tories had to weather a downturn was the same plan they'd always had. Fire teachers and nurses, crowd our classrooms, crowd our ERs, and generally make life harder for regular families. So Albertans turned to us instead, and they asked us very simply to look after the things that mattered to them. And that's what I want to speak to you about just a little bit today, about how we in Alberta have approached governing during an economic downturn, about how we are positioning Alberta for a better future, and about the values that have guided and will continue to guide every decision that we make. Values that put the health, security, and futures of regular families front and center. Values rooted in the belief that our entire society is stronger when our kids have great schools and our loved ones can get great care in our hospitals and our long-term care facilities. And values that recognize good jobs and a growing economy can and must go hand in hand with our responsibilities to each other and our shared environment. Values that, quite frankly, form the basis of who we are, and values that serve as the common thread uniting working people across our country. So, these values have been put to the test in Alberta. And if any of you doubt that it matters who you elect to be in government, let's look at a tale of two different provinces. Our government, as I said, was elected just as the most severe recession in generations was getting started in Alberta. Albertans were worried about the basics, their jobs, paying their bills, kids' futures. For too many families, it was and still is a very stressful time. From our very first days in government, we were confronted with a choice. Would we respond like past governments, as I've said, and impose severe cuts? Heaven knows a lot of people were and still are every day encouraging us to do so. They said we should give, and they say we should give massive tax giveaways to those who already make the most, then pay for those giveaways by cutting the health and the education services that regular Albertans rely on. It's the same old plan. Just look at the decisions being made by the Prairie Province directly east of Alberta, where they are only making life harder for regular families, families who are already hurting. Have a look at their budget. A tax break for the wealthiest 10%, while everyone else gets tax increases on everything from children's clothes, for heaven's sakes, to construction, a fundamental building block of economic growth. They've also cut health and education, and millions have been cancelled in school and health facility construction. They are mandating rollbacks to public sector wages and legislations to end contracts, and they will dampen an economy that is already hurt by private sector job loss and tax plans to make life less affordable. All of that so one province can balance its budget 36 months before Alberta does. 36 months, in which we are making life more affordable, creating jobs, and protecting vital services. And they're making life harder for families, harder for construction workers, harder for students who need education, and harder for patients who need great health care. It is, my friends, the wrong thing to do for working people and working families. In Alberta, as I said, we were elected to do things differently. Our first commitment is and always will be to put regular people at the center of our decision-making. We have a very, very simple test for everything we do. Does this make life better for everyday Albertans? And that focus on helping regular people weather the downturn is making a difference. We will absolutely balance our budget. We have a clear line of sight to do exactly that by 2023. We know the importance of thrift and prudence, and we practice it. But what we won't do is put balancing the budget ahead of everything else, which would only slow down our recovery, add to the social deficit we inherited, and add to the massive, massive infrastructure deficit that we inherited. Today, in our province, patients have access to the care that they need when they need it. Young people can get a better education because we've frozen tuitions, because we're building new public schools, and we're putting more teachers in our classrooms. Families have help affording the essentials because we cut school fees. We were the province with the highest school fees in the country, and we said that is not good enough, and we cut them as our first bill in this spring's legislature. We're taking concrete steps to make life better and fairer for women in Alberta. I'm proud we have the first cabinet in our history to be led by a majority of women. And it's reflected in every decision we make. We're actively working to recruit more women for our province's agencies, boards, and commissions. We have the first ministry responsible for the status of women ever in Alberta. We've increased funding for women's shelters by $15 million to help women fleeing from violence, an increase the community had been waiting for 30 years. And we passed a law that makes it easier for victims of domestic violence to get out of dangerous situations, including allowing women to break rental agreements in those cases. And just 2 weeks ago, we changed the statute of limitations in Alberta to make it easier for survivors of sexual and domestic violence to take their attackers to court to sue for lost wages, pain, and suffering. And my friends, here's a shameful fact. The majority of minimum wage earners are women. And that's why part of our plan to reduce inequality and to make life better and fairer for working people is to lead the continent on wage policy. So I am so proud that our government is working to make real progress towards closing the gender pay gap and making real progress towards fighting poverty by increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour next year. But you know, increasing the minimum wage is far from the only measure we've introduced to make life better for low-income families. We're not just talking about fighting poverty, we're doing it. We started by getting rid of Canada's most regressive flat tax and introducing a progressive tax system. And last year, we introduced what outside observers have referred to as the most significant anti-poverty measure of a generation. It's called the Alberta Child Benefit Program. It provides extra help to the families who need that help the most, nearly 200,000 families across the province. And in so doing, it helps to ensure that children get a good start in life and helps Albertans in need get back to their feet and back into the workforce. Because that's all that we want. We want people to have good jobs and to be able to build the lives they want for themselves and for the people that they love. In Alberta, we're doing it. We're fighting poverty and making life more affordable and helping to create good jobs. Tens of thousands of skilled workers have good jobs because we are building Alberta with schools and hospitals and highways and bridges. And now, a little over 2 years from the day we were first elected, I'm feeling just a little bit more optimistic. Alberta's economy is getting stronger. It will lead the country next year in growth. Full-time jobs are returning. In fact, with the job numbers released last Friday, 9 of the last 10 months have seen job increases in Alberta. including over 20,000 jobs in March, double the rest of Canada. Manufacturing is up, capital investment is up, exports are up, and our housing market is stabilizing. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. But confidence is returning. It's returning to the boardroom table, and it's returning to the kitchen table. It's even returning to the small businesses where the kitchen table is the boardroom table. Alberta is emerging from this recession stronger and well-positioned for the future. Our kids have good schools, our patients have good hospitals, our economy is more diversified, and our deficit is coming down. That's the clear difference between our vision and our opponents. They cut and fire, we build and hire. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So ours is an increasingly uncertain world. Working families need the certainty of knowing their government is looking out for them. So let's talk about how we're working to provide families with that kind of certainty. Let's talk about jobs. It became clear to us very early in our mandate that we could either follow the downturn or lead the recovery. We chose to lead. And that began with a commitment to create good jobs and to invest in Alberta's future. As I said, we put Albertans to work building long overdue schools, hospitals, long-term care facilities, and affordable housing units. We furthered those jobs-creating efforts in our most recent budget. We put Albertans to work by building those highways, those bridges, those overpasses, and those municipal government infrastructure projects. We also made the choice to serve as an economic shock observer, doing whatever we could to protect Albertans from the drastic drop in the price of oil. After all, the last thing a down economy needs is for more people to be put out of work. So as I said, we kept funding for schools stable and predictable. We kept funding for health care stable and predictable. We kept funding for our municipalities stable and predictable. And we kept funding for our universities and our colleges stable and predictable. Now, stable and predictable may sound boring, but you know what else it means? It also means that we continue to resist efforts to go after our public servants. No, we are honoring our public service contracts. We also work to help small businesses and entrepreneurs. We made capital available for them to expand and access new markets. We've made trade missions to China, Japan, and other markets to help break down barriers that were holding Alberta companies back. And at the same time, we work to diversify our economy and protect Alberta from being hit again by this kind of oil price shock in the future. And as a start, we introduced new incentives that have attracted billions of dollars in new petrochemical investments to Alberta. 2 major new petrochemical plants are going to be built north of Edmonton. These plants will help to create plastics products that people all over the world use every single day. Water bottles, car parts, and so much more. Creating new value chains that will benefit Albertans in the years to come, and helping people today with good-paying construction jobs. And we launched our Climate Leadership Plan, which has made Alberta the most attractive green energy investment jurisdiction in all of Canada, arguably all of North America. This particular component of our Climate Leadership Plan is expected to bring $10.5 billion in private investment to Alberta and at least 7,500 jobs by 2030. So when someone tries to tell you that you can't reduce emissions while also growing the economy and creating jobs, you tell them that they're wrong, and you tell them to look to Alberta. And here's more proof. Because we took serious action to reduce our emissions, especially those from the oil sands, we secured the approval of 2 new pipelines, including the first new Canadian pipeline approval to Canadian Tidewater in way too long. Now, the Prime Minister, as you probably heard, said those pipeline approvals would not have been possible were it not for Alberta's actions to reduce emissions. So, how did we do it? Well, we consulted widely and we brought people together. Our plan is supported by leading Canadian environmentalists, oil sands CEOs, and First Nations. It's a plan that tackles emissions across our economy. It caps emissions from the oil sands. It puts a price on carbon. It reduces methane. And it reinvests every dollar collected back into our economy, protecting affordability for lower-income families, investing in a growing renewable energy sector, establishing Alberta's first-ever energy efficiency agency, and developing technologies that further reduce emissions in Alberta's energy industry. This work was long overdue in Alberta. And it cannot be understated how important those pipelines that were associated with that work are to Alberta's economy and the broader Canadian economy. And it cannot be understated how important these pipelines are to the hard-working men and women in our energy sector and all sectors of our economy that benefit from a strong energy industry. Oil sands companies spent over $7.6 billion last year on goods and services across all of Canada. There were over 1,500 suppliers in Ontario alone who supplied goods and services to the oil sands. That's a lot of good jobs for people and a lot of revenue towards the high-quality public services all Canadians need, enjoy, and benefit from. I want to assure you that the approval of the Trans Mountain Pipeline results from the most progressive and comprehensive response to climate change anywhere in North America. You might ask, how can building a pipeline and tackling climate change be part of the same strategy? A very good question. And the answer highlights a key feature of our climate change plan. Because we are capping emissions, it is important to know that with or without the Trans Mountain Pipeline, emissions remain the same. They will not go up past the cap. In other words, our climate leadership plan effectively delinks pipelines from increasing GHG emissions. This is an important point for me to make in my conversations with Canadians everywhere. The Trans Mountain Pipeline allows Alberta the opportunity to move towards a lower carbon economy. Why is that? Because right now, without access to tidewater, Alberta is forced to sell its oil products to one customer, the U.S., at one price. That means that we are taking a financial hit on every barrel of oil we sell. That's less money for healthcare, less money for education, and less money to grow our renewable sector and reduce our emissions. And what's more, this pipeline will create great jobs in BC, Alberta, and across the country, not by 2030 or by 2050. It will create jobs right away, 15,000 jobs during construction and 37,000 direct and indirect jobs during every year it operates. Jobs that will be even more important for our rural communities and BC's interior during softwood lumber talks. Simply put, Alberta cannot be a climate change leader if our economy is put in a straitjacket, unable to access new customers for our energy products. It doesn't make any sense to not get the best price for the oil that we do produce and the world still needs. The bottom line, that pipeline is critical to our well-being. Now, you all know me, and you know where I come from. I don't come from oil and gas office towers, Ottawa steakhouses, or Bay Street boardrooms. I don't. I come from people just like you, and I'm here to look out for our working people. I wouldn't be making this argument. I would not be making this argument in support of this pipeline if I didn't believe that it is absolutely the right thing to do. Friends, it will create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. It will contribute to stronger, more vibrant communities, and the additional revenues it generates will help in our transition to a lower carbon economy. So I ask you for your support to seeing it to the fishing line. Canada's labour movement has always stood up for working people. You have been leaders in the environment, and you are committed to a country that puts everyday people first. We share those same values, and the pipeline meets those tests. In Alberta, we are doing everything in our power to set our economy and our future on stronger, more stable footing. Fighting for new pipelines is critical to that. So is taking meaningful action, serious, leading action to protect our climate. Same with fighting to create good jobs and fighting to protect the services that make a real difference in the lives of regular families. It's about how we help working and regular families today. And it's quite frankly about the kind of country, the kind of society, the kind of future that we leave for our kids. Before I conclude, I want to tell you about a young lady I met the other day. Her name is Unique. She's a grade 5 student in Edmonton. Like so many young Albertans, Unique is bright-eyed and ambitious. Though she's only in grade 5 and is tiny, tiny little thing, she has a big heart and even bigger plans. According to her, she's either going to be a pharmacist or a lawyer, or as she calmly told me, maybe she'll be both. And if anyone could, believe me, it's her. I had the pleasure of meeting her while I was at our school with our Minister of Education, or at her school with our Minister of Education. And we announced that we were expanding our school nutrition program province-wide. This is a province our government created to make sure every child in Alberta has a good meal before school, one that helps them better focus on their studies, one that helps make life better, that much more affordable for parents who really need help. The school we were in that day had had this program in place since January, part of a trial that we launched last fall to see how we could better organize that program. So Unique agreed to say a few words at the press conference. She's also very brave. And as it turns out, she has a media presence that has a directly inverse relationship to her size. She totally stole the show. But anyway, at that press conference, she told us why this program is so important to her and why she thinks it will help other kids. She talked about how much better her and her friends feel when they get a good meal at the beginning of the day, how it helps her and her friends better focus in class, and how they also get to learn about healthy eating. Unique and her big dreams, they really struck with me. She's like so many young Albertans. She's smart, she's funny, and she's so darn driven. And friends, I bet that each and every one of you know a child just like her. And when it comes down to it, whether you're working to make sure that your hospitals are well staffed to better treat patients, or you're devoted to improving the safety and fairness of our workplaces, or you're making sure governments across the country understand what their decisions mean to working families, we are all working towards a better, brighter future for everyone. The decisions we make today matter. They matter for the well-beings of families trying to make ends meet. They matter for the opportunities available today, tomorrow, and for years to come. And they matter to the young people, such as Unique, who want and need to be well prepared to seize those opportunities. Under our government, no economic downturn is going to prevent kids in Alberta from getting the great education and dreaming their big dreams. I'm in this, like I know you are too, brothers and sisters, to make life better for people. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your solid advice. And thank you for always being there, looking out for working people across this incredible country. Your past history, your future plans, and your work today are all integral to the best of who we all are in this country. Please let us continue that tradition together. Thank you very much.